on here. Lori, I don't know if someone's going to say something to get us started or if I'm just going to jump in. So I'm going to plan on that.
I'm
You tell
here.
me
I can
otherwise.
hear you.
Oh, perfect. Oh, hey, Cassie. Awesome. Cool. Well, I don't, looks like we don't really have anything else to go over. It looks like we've got, well, we do have several people on today. Alma, Caddy, Leah, Paula, Reed, and Sim. Perfect. Thanks for being here. Is anyone open to putting their camera on so I don't feel too alone in my thoughts over here? I won't judge you if not, but hey, how's it going? Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. I will take it. I get that, and not everyone wants to have their camera on at all times because you might be doing something else, but yeah, I appreciate it. So I don't have to feel too lonely over here. Um, Okay, well, I'm just going to jump in. I wish tonight I was teaching you, I was going to be able to tell you how amazing you are and tell you that you're worthy and you're going to sell all the real estate in the world and all the strategies to do that. But that is not my task tonight. My task tonight is teach you how to price homes. So we're going to be very tactical today. Not necessarily teaching you as much about growing a business, but about valuing property, which is probably the most valuable thing that we do for our seller clients, I think, especially in a market like we have today. Super important to price homes correctly, be able to be a resource for our clients to make sure that they're listing their home at an appropriate price to be able to get the outcome that they're looking for. So, um, I'm just going to jump in. So feel free. I am totally open to it being interactive. There's a lot of info that I'm going to have to go through. And I'm basically going to show you the whole process of how you would actually go about pricing a home. I'll show you some tips and some tricks. I know it's being recorded, so you might want to hang on to the recording too when it comes out on the YouTube channel, just so that you can follow this when you go and you're pricing your first homes. Um, yeah, but we'll just jump right in. Okay, let me just make a couple adjustments on my screen here. The way that I think is going to make the most sense. And then, yeah, just feel free to jump in if you have any questions or comments. The way that the screen looks, I may not see your actual chats. So if you have something to say, just throw it out and I'll make sure I get to it. Okay. When it comes to listing or when it comes to pricing properties, there's kind of 3 steps that I'm going to cover with you today. Well, hey, for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Nick. Sorry. I'm Nick, real estate agent. I'm out of the South Valley office. Uh, been in real estate for like 11 years, 11 and a half years. Um, Total real estate nerd. Love everything about it. Happy to help you however I can. Reach out to me anytime. Okay. When it comes to pricing property, there's 3 steps. Step number 1 is identify the subject property. Identify the subject property means we have to see what exactly are we working with in the home that you're looking at. And this is, we're specifically talking about homes today, but it could also be a lot, a piece of land or whatever, but you got to figure out what do we have that we're working with. So step number 1, identify the subject property. Step number 2 is going to be locate comparable properties. So comparable properties. And last but not least is going to be prepare it so that you can present it to your client. So obviously we need to have all the data, all the info, but then we also need to know how do we put it in a nice format where we can get it out to your clients and show them all the good stuff that you're doing. So show them the pertinent information that they need. So let's start with step number 1. Step number 1 is identify the subject property. Because I have done this class many times and I've learned my lesson, I'm not going to pick a random property. I'm going to pick my own property, which is like my personal residence, because my house is very cookie cutter. It's in a cookie cutter neighborhood. It's very simple. All the houses are very similar. Um, so I know that I can give you a good idea of how to do it. Now, then you can kind of take this simple example and then you can tweak it for a more complicated one where the houses are a little more different. You can kind of take it from there, but I'm going to start it off simple so that you can see what the process looks like. Okay, first step is go up here to search and then residential full. This is in the MLS, obviously. So go into the MLS, go to residential full search. That's where we can look up any property that's ever been sold on the MLS or is currently for sale or active, pending, expired, anything like that. We're going to go in here. Now I'm going to pretend that I'm listing this house. So let's say I'm going to go to a listing appointment at this house. I'm going to try to get them to sell their house with me. Okay. So my client is Asia, who's my wife. So that's who the seller client is. I'm going over to list her house to do a listing consultation. I need to have a good CMA to bring with me. So step number one, identify the subject property, go into residential full search, clear all the criteria. You want to get rid of everything because automatically it's going to choose active and the house isn't active. It's not for sale yet. If it was, we wouldn't need a CMA because we'd already be on the market. So in identifying the subject property, we're going to go down to house number. I'm going to put in my house number and then my street name, which is McKenna. Again, realize I didn't put McKenna Road. I just put McKenna because maybe on some of the listings it's listed like this, ROAD. Maybe on some it's RD. Maybe some it's RD period. So try it. Less is kind of more when you're looking for a house this way. You guys can see the MLS, right? From you're looking at all the criteria of the MLS. Is that right? Hopefully.
Yes.
You are? Okay. Okay. Just making sure. Okay, so I'm going to put in McKenna here, and you'll see over here there's one match. So one match means it found one property that's got the house number 976, the street name McKenna. I'm going to hit view results, and that's going to show me the house. There's only one of them. If I click on the MLS sheet, it pulls it up right here, and this is my house. It's my actual house. So I'm just going to go to create PDF just because it's kind of habit. And I'm going to download this just so I have it handy and it's easy to grab. Okay, now the nice thing about this is now in my downloads, I have a full PDF. This will give me everything I need to know as far as identifying the subject property. This has all the stuff I need to know. It's got the square footage, it's got the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the garage count, the acreage, the year built, all the stuff. Now, this house sold, you can tell here, sold in 2017. What do you think? Can you think of anything that might have changed on the house since I bought it as far as the stats of the house go? What do you think we may not know just by looking at the MLS sheet?
You might have finished the basement.
Exactly. Yep. That's the big one that we just don't know because when I bought it, it was 0% finished. So that's one of the only things. So if you're doing this for a seller, you'd look at this and you'd say, wait, when they bought it, it was 0% finished, but is it finished now? And you might ask them that so you can go to the appointment more prepared. In my case, it's not been finished, so you don't have to worry about it. But anyways, that's most of this stuff will not change. That of course could change if it's low before, they might have updated it and finished that off. So anyways, that is the subject property. Now, just going to toggle these real quick. Okay. So now I've got all the details on the subject property. Now I do actually want to show you one thing real quick. Let's say that you couldn't find a listing. Let's say that when you did this, you put in the house number and you put in the street name. What if it said 0 matches here? What if that house had never been listed on the MLS? What are some reasons you could think of why a house would not be showing up on the MLS?
My listing was just like that. Original owners went straight from a builder in 2002 and just didn't show up anywhere but county.
Yep.
New
Yeah, new
construction
construction.
doesn't show up.
Yep. Yep, exactly. So new construction won't show up. I mean, it could, like mine did, for example, but sometimes new construction won't have been listed on the MLS. If they've owned it just for a long time, the MLS, from what I can tell, goes back to about 1995. So if they've owned it for more than 30 years, it's been in their family for more than 30 years, it may not show up that way because it may have been sold off market, for sale by owner or something like that. So if that's the case, I do want to show you really quick how you can find it still. It's a little more complicated, but I'll show you. Go up to search, go down to tax data. And now you can put in the house number. Again, I'm going to use that same one for my house. Choose which county it's in, Salt Lake. And then when I go here, again, it's on McKenna Road. So I scroll down until I find the one that says McKenna Road. It's got my name on it and my wife's name on it. So I know that's the right one. And the cool thing is now you can use this to get the same information that was on the MLS sheet. You can find it here for the most part. It's just a little more complicated. It's just a little more complicated. Like on here, it shows what the total square footage is, this 3341. But if you look at the tax records, nowhere does it say 3341. That doesn't list it there. So, but if you kind of start reading between the lines a little bit, this says the upper story is 1373, which is one off of what this MLS sheet said. So that would have got us pretty close. We could have said, okay, we know it's a two-story house. The second floor is 1373. The base area is like the main floor usually, and then the basement, of course, is the basement. If you add these all together, they're not going to equal exactly 3341, but they would get us awfully close. And then when it comes to like, how could you know how big the garage is? If you look at these square foot numbers, like a normal one car bay in a garage is going to be about 200 square feet because it's about 20 feet long and 10 feet wide. So this being 420 square feet, you could pretty well realize, okay, it's probably a two car garage. If it's like 600 or 700 square feet, it's probably a 3 car garage. So, anyways, this is how you can find the details. If it's not got a past MLS listing, you can use the tax data to piece it together. If it's a newer construction, it'll have better info here. Like this has pretty good info. If it's older, it might have less, and you have to piece it together a little bit more. And we're always happy to help you. But Coach Terry, Coach Lori, myself, another smart agent in your office, just reach out. People are happy to help. So anyways, that's what you do if the house has not been listed on the MLS recently. And let me get back. Probably shouldn't have closed that, but that's okay. All right. So now so now we've identified the subject property. We know what it has: square footage, bedroom, bathroom, acreage, all that stuff. Now we need to find step 2 is to locate comparable properties. Now, what we're going to do there is go to search, residential full search. And now we're left with these criteria here, this criteria. And we just need to come up with our stuff. So the first thing we're going to look for is solds. So I'm going to change the status to just solds. When you choose that, it's automatically going to change the sold date. You see, we chose sold here. It automatically chose the sold date down here of July 17th, 24. So it went back a full year for sold data. Now we don't want to go back a full year. That's not going to be super helpful. So I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm just going to go back somewhere between 3 and 6 months. I'm going to go back 1, 2, 3, 4 months. I'm going to try to go back just to March 1st. Now, to be 100% honest with you, there's not a ton of sold data over the last few months. We've had historic lows of transactions closed. So we're just a little short. We may have to stretch that out a little bit, but let's try this. About 90 days would be ideal. We can stretch it out to 180 or maybe a hair more if we need to. But anyways, first I'm going to go to sold date. Then I'm going to go to the map. There's a little button right here that says view map. That's going to pull it up. I'm going to hit this radius tool right here. kind of having to balance these two screens here. I'm going to take this MLS number from the previous listing. You could also just steal the address, but I find it works pretty well with the MLS number. I'm going to put that in here. So when you've got the map like this, go to set radius / location, click on that. I'm going to paste in the MLS number right there. You could also paste the address again, but I think the MLS number works a little bit better. And I'm going to go out about a half mile. That's about where you want to be. Now, if you're in downtown Salt Lake, you may not have to go out a full half mile. If you're in the middle of nowhere, you might go out 5 miles. But in Salt Lake County, about a half mile is pretty good. And then just hit set criteria. What that's going to do is give you this radius where it says these are all the houses within a half mile radius. Okay. I'm going to slow down for just a second, make sure that everyone kind of understand how we got here. Are we all on the same page? I realize it's a lot of clicks and stuff, but
Hey, sorry, can you repeat that?
about the radius.
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah. So you come into the map, hit the radius tool,
Okay.
hit set. Yeah. It's this, just this circle radius tool, and
Uh-huh.
then go to set radius. And that's where we put in the MLS number or the address,
Okay.
and then how far out we want to go, which is a half mile is a good number to start with.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So now these are all the homes that have sold within a half mile of the house. And that this again, this is to going back to March 1st. So then I'm gonna hide the map. You can also check on your criteria right here. There's a search criteria button. When you drop that down, it'll say, okay, this just says that you're using the map. So it's using our map criteria that we have in there, which is that radius that we set up. It says it's going to show us any property that's in Utah that's within this map range that's been sold since March 1st. So that's our criteria right now. And there's 13 homes that fit that criteria. So now we want to get down to about 3 to 5 sold listings that are pretty dang similar to the one that we've got. So this is the part where it becomes a little bit more of an art than a science. We have to figure out, okay, we're in this neighborhood. It's a very, we're in this neighborhood. Again, it's a very cookie cutter neighborhood. Um, there's a few things that matter, and it depends on the property. So I'm going to say one thing is I would never want to, in my neighborhood, I don't want to compare with any house that has a third car garage. If a house has a third car garage, it's not comparable to a 2 car. It's a big jump from 2 to 3. From 3 to 4, it's not that big of a jump. But because I only have a 2 car garage, I don't want to compare with anything that's got a third. It's just a different type of property, a different buyer. I want stuff that's as similar as possible. So I'm going to scroll down here to garage, and I'm going to max it out at 2. I'm actually going to minimum it out at 2 as well. So this is only going to show me houses with 2 car garages. I don't know if you noticed, but the matches were saying 13. Now there's 11. So we got rid of 2 just by changing the garage capacity. Now, what else? What other criteria do you think we are going to be important? And before I set you up for failure, because we only have 11 matches now, so we need the non-negotiables, the one where it's like, hey, we can't compare. Like I said, I can't compare a 2 car to a 3 car, at least in my neighborhood. It's just not going to work that well. Whereas like square footage, you might have one house that's a little bit bigger than the other or whatever. They don't have to be exact. I'm less worried about that. But what other criteria do you think we might look at when it comes to finding the right properties to compare with? Any ideas?
Year built.
So are we actually gonna are we actually improving the comp plan in this sense by?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Are we actually improving the comp plan then in a sense by moving over to Orcon?
The year that was built.
Yeah, the year that it's built.
That's one of the reasons.
Yeah, the year that it's built, I think is a good one. Let's go in here. One thing, and it just kind of depends what your experience is with a specific neighborhood. Like if you know it really well, it's a little different than if you don't know it really well. Because like in my neighborhood, I just know. So this was built in 2017. So if I do, let's say I go back to year built, because I live in an area with only new houses. Let's say that I say, hey, I only want houses that have been built since 2015. It's probably not going to get rid of any. Oh, it actually got rid of one, but it's not, they're all so similar in age that on this one, I'm going to say probably not. Like we're not going to want to do year built. And I realize it's hard to differentiate a little bit, but this is in a brand new neighborhood. So the only thing I might do on year built is if I was worried about getting brand new houses. I don't want to compare brand new houses with the 2017. So I might kick out like anything that's 2023 or newer. I might try to do that to kick out the brand new ones. But I think in this particular neighborhood, I probably am not going to lean into year built. I think there's something that's a little more, but in certain neighborhoods you would. But on this one, I'm going to start with first property type, single family. Let's see what that does. Oh man, it worked, but it worked a little too good. We only have 6 matches. So if we're talking about just single family, we're already at only 6 matches. But that's 6 houses that have 2-car garages that are single family that have sold since March. That's not a lot. Now, are there any other non-negotiables? Like, are there any non-negotiables you think we have to make sure we weed out in this process?
I would look at the basement finishing percentage again.
Basement finish would be a big one for sure. Anything else you can think that's like super big picture, like a big criteria item?
Number of
Acreage,
bedrooms, number of bathrooms.
Yeah, bedrooms, bathrooms, that would be a good one.
2-story versus 1-story.
Yes, that's the one I was looking for. That's the one I was looking for. We're not going to price it in a new area. You're going to have only really ramblers and 2 stories. You're not going to have split entries or multi levels or anything. But yeah, I think that style is probably the top choice. So we know that this is a 2-story. Now I know that it's a 2-story because I live in it. I climb up the stairs all the time, right? If you don't, because it's not your house, which very rarely are you going to be doing a CMA on your own house, you can just Google it. So you could, because a lot of times we're trying to figure out like what does this house have? What's the situation? Luckily, my yard looks like it was taken care of at the time. It doesn't look this good right now, but um, this is the house. So you could tell from just looking at it, oh, it's a 2-story. We want to value it like a 2-story because it is a 2-story, right? And again, my neighborhood, it's all like this one has a 3-car garage. It's probably the only one. Well, it's one of very few on this whole street. So again, you can kind of look around and you can see, hey, these ones are all 2 stories. Any ramblers are going to be on different streets, different setups or whatnot. But anyways, if you're not sure about the setup of the home, you can just Google Earth it, pull up the map and get a good idea. Also, we do this for basements too, because sometimes it's hard to tell, like, does it have a basement? Sometimes there's certain houses that you're like, I don't think it has a basement. You can just pull up a map, zoom into it, and this isn't a foolproof way, but we could start looking at it and see if we can see any window wells. Mine, you really can't see window wells that well. I know that there's one right here, there's one right here, and one right here, but I really can't see that on the map. So I would kind of be out of luck. Luckily, we have this MLS sheet that obviously will tell you, but that's kind of how you can go about figuring out what the details are. But back to our criteria, let's go in and change the 2-story. That only got rid of one of our comparables. That leaves us with 5 matches. That's pretty dang good though. We want about 3 to 5 solds, and we've got 5. Now, I do think your basement idea is definitely going to come in handy. We're going to need to see. But what I actually prefer to do, since we have 5 matches, just hit view results right here. This is going to show what those 5 matches are. And it pulls up in this format. This format is okay, but there's actually one that I think is a little better at a glance. If you select all of these, just click this top box, we'll select all of them. And then where it says view reports, just change it to brief report. This will show you all 5 of those listings again, but this time it gives you more info. And the cool thing is, like right here, it'll say this page takes a lot of getting used to, but you'll start to see like this is basically the key. This says where all these data points are at. So, you know, the list price is right here, and below it is the basement finish percentage. So this is the list price. This is the finished percentage of the basement. So that one's 100% finished. That one's 100% finished. That one's 100% finished. That one's 100%, or that one's 65, and this is 100% finished. That's problematic for us. Why? Because we have an unfinished basement, right? So that's a little problematic, but it is what it is. We can't, you know, we got to use the ones that we've got. Now, one thing, see, had I just got rid of all basements that were finished, I would end up with 0 results. That's not going to work that well. So that's why usually if I have a low number like that, I'll look at them and just see, hey, what do these houses have in common and what do they have that's different? I do see like this one has a 0.17 acre lot. Not super comparable with the 0.1 because it's like getting close in that double department, right? The rest of them are pretty similar, 0.11, 0.09, 0.08, 0.08. So those are comparable in the lot size department. We can also look at the square footage. So remember, we have like 3,300, 3,341 is what that says. So we can look at square footage. So this one has 2988, 2915, 3038, 3535, 3528. These are all pretty similar. You know, they can vary a little bit because we're split up on 3 levels, right? The main floor, the second floor, and the basement. Being a little bit bigger or smaller in square footage isn't that important because we're talking maybe 100 square feet per floor or less, you know, so that's not too big of a deal. The square footage isn't bad. Again, these all have 2-car garages. They were all built around the same time, 18, 17, 19, 19, and 17. So that's not a problem. Probably the least comparable out of all of these would be this one because of how big the lot is. Don't you think? You guys kind of agree on that? Well, I'm going to go with yes. So let's say that one's the least comparable. I just think, man, I just think it's a different buyer that buys this that compared to the one that buys a 0.1. I just think it's a little different. And that also is reflected in the sales price. You can see it's the highest sales price. So I think that has to do with it too. So I'm actually going to go here and I'm just going to kick out, I'm going to go to acreage and I'm going to max it out at 0.15. And that's just going to kick out that one that's just a little bit bigger. That leaves us with 4. So now, and I like to do this, let me just grab the notepad. This is how I like to do it. Hopefully you can still see this notepad when I pull it over here. I think it's going to show the whole screen. So what I'm going to do, and this isn't the most techie way to do it, it's just kind of the way that's handy for me. I just like to type in these MLS numbers. So these 4 houses I think are the most similar. Now, granted, none of them have unfinished basement, which I don't like, but they seem to be the best one. So I'm just going to put in the MLS number, which is listed right here. I'm going to throw those in. 208, 8693, 207, 5317. Those are my like sold comps that I think are the best. Now I'm also going to go on a quick hunt. I think these are pretty good comps, you know, maybe as good as we can find. But I also, one thing I want to do is go back to the map. And I just want to see, and this is one thing that I know specifically because I live there. We may not always know this, but you probably will still see there's a little bit of a pattern where you can see these 3 houses are very close to the subject property. The subject property is right here. These 3 are really close. This one's kind of further out in the neighborhood. This is a totally different section of the neighborhood. I kind of like this one less just for that. like the fact that we've got 3 that are right here in the neighborhood versus this one that's way out here, I'm probably gonna try to kick this one out too, to be honest. So that's one thing to consider. I'm also going to chase down really quick the basement situation. So you mentioned the basement. I do think the basement is important, but we know that we don't have a basement that's not finished out of the comps that we're looking at. I'd really like one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go back a little bit in time. So we were going back to March 1st. I'm gonna go back to January 1st and just see if that leaves me with a house that only got us 2 extra houses. But let's see if any of them have unfinished basements. No, they do not. These are all 100%, or there's the one that's 65%. So that didn't really help us there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. So I'm just going to click on search criteria here. Is there anything else that we can afford to give up on to be able to see what an unfinished basement goes for? Could we compare it to something other than a single family? No. Could we compare to something other than a 2-story? No, not here, not in this neighborhood. One random thing is in Moab. I sell a little bit in Moab just because I really like Moab. And the craziest thing, the appraisers there use all types, all property types. So my client was buying a split entry and they compared it with Ramblers, 2 stories, mobile. Literally, there was a mobile that was on land that they compare it to. Very interesting, but there's just not a lot of sales in Moab. So they do the best they can to try to tweak things and try to make them work, which works okay in Moab. That's acceptable there. That's just how they do it. But because you have to use the best comps possible, and maybe those are the best comps possible. But here in Salt Lake County, you've got to have you got to be comparing with 2 stories only, if it's a 2-story, of course. Okay, acreage. I just don't think changing the acreage is going to help too much because, we could try it. But most of these houses do not have acreage. So I don't think that's really going to change it too much. What if we maxed it out at 0.2? That gives us one more, but it's probably not going to be one that is going to really help us. Let's see what that is. That was, oh, it's just the same one. Yeah, it's the same one that had 0.17 before. It didn't open us up anymore. So, okay, so acreage is not going to be the ticket here. We could extend out the map. Let's see where, just wondering if there's any more houses really to, we could, this isn't critical. I'm just trying to give you, I'm kind of trying to show you how it happens, like how it goes on in my head at least. But you could probably see, so my neighborhood is this whole chunk. You can kind of see there's actually a train that goes right here, a railroad track that goes right here. I'm going to, instead of doing this half-mile radius, I'm going to try to include more of like just this whole neighborhood. I'm going to try to go all the way down here. I'm not going to cross the tracks because, you've heard of like the other side of the tracks is a vastly different place when it comes to value, right? So, but that did open us up for a few extra ones down here. Whether they'll help us or not, I don't know. But so we could go back in time, but we can also expand our search a little bit. You might have noticed our radius went something like right through here, and this expanded us out to these options here and these options here. Let's see if any of those have unfinished basements that we could compare to. Because I might include them if I can. Those are all finished. I'm the only one with an unfinished basement apparently. So because those didn't help me, I'm not adding those in because they're further out. I'm just not adding those in. So gonna go back to refine search. We're just gonna do without. I'm gonna go back, get my radius going again. we're back. I've got these 6 listings here, which we had whittled it down to only 4. So I'm going to try to get us back there. Not that it really matters. I guess I can. But go back to March. Okay. So now we're back to March 1st with these 4 comps. So these 4 comps that we already pulled, those are the 4 that are right here. We're going to call it good on solds. Now, and one of these we don't even particularly like this one that's on Firelock Way, is just further out on a map. So that's that one. We don't even really like this one. This is kind of a one that we don't like that much because of the location. It's just further out. So I'm going to separate it a little bit just so I remember. Okay, that's how we look for solds. All right. And solds are the best indication of value because they are sold. A buyer came in, agreed to pay a certain amount. Seller agreed to sell it for that amount. More than likely, an appraiser agreed with them on that, and we're good. So that's why the sold prices are the best indicator of price. But there's a couple other things too. So I'm going to get rid of this sold status, and I'm going to choose backup and under contract. Backup and under contract statuses both mean pending. They both mean there's a contract pending. Does anyone know what the difference is between under contract and backup?
I have mine in backup right now, and I'm still willing to let people look at it and put a backup offer just in case.
Yep. Perfect. Yeah, that's really the big difference is backup. They're both under contract. They both have a buyer under contract on them, but backup is basically we're still looking for a backup buyer. We're willing to continue to show it and look at backup offers. Now, under contract, they're also under contract pending with a buyer, but they're not really showing it anymore. So you'll usually see occupied listings will be listed as under contract because they don't want to show it anymore. And then vacant listings are more often listed as backup because they're like, hey, if you want to see it, yeah, we are under contract, but if you want to see it, you're welcome to go take a look and get us a backup contract. So I know that can be confusing because the backup status, I think a lot of people assume that it means that they have a backup offer on it, like they have a backup contract. It really means they're looking for backup contracts. So hopefully that made sense. So you click on both of those and now you'll have the pendings. So now we have one match that's a pending. It's either a backup or an under contract. We only have one, but we are pretty niched down. If you look at our criteria, we've of course got our half-mile radius on the map. We've got a 2-car garage, which we really still just want to compare with 2-car garages. We've got single family homes, 2 stories, and 0.15 acres. So we're really not niched down that much. There's just only one pending there, which that's low, but we're also at a time where we just don't have a lot of pendings. We don't have a lot of pendings and we don't have a lot of solds, recent solds. So let's look at that one. I'm hoping it's going to be a decent one to help us with price. So this one is currently in under contract status. It's similar in square footage. It does have a finished basement, of course. So acreage is similar. Year built is similar. Of course, it's a 2-story. It's got that 2-car garage. I mean, it's decently similar to the house, except for that finished basement. This one was listed at $755. Now, listed at $755 and it had 35 days on the market. Let's look at the history. You can just click history right here. That will pull up all the pricing history. Well, all the history of it really. But let's take a look at that. So on June 9th, they listed the house. And then on June 17th, they dropped it from 8 to 765. So a pretty big price reduction. And then on July 3rd, they dropped it to 755. And on the 14th, it went under contract. So they dropped it to 755. And after 11 days, That's not too many. After 11 days, it went under contract. Now, do you think it's under contract at 755, above 755, or below 755? You have a guess based on that?
Low for sure.
Yeah, it's probably below. Yeah, as sad as it is, 11 days on the market is enough. They probably got the price down. They probably got at least some concessions on it, right? So let's call it, just to be safe. I mean, well, just to be in the ballpark, because who knows for sure. But we can assume it's probably under contract around 750, maybe 745 or 740, somewhere in there. So the bad thing about these pendings is we don't know what they're going to sell for because they haven't even sold for it yet. But the nice thing is they're happening like really recently. Like this one went under contract on the 14th. We're only on the 17th today. So this week, this one went under contract. So the nice thing is that it's recent. It's not a super old, like a sold that happened 3 months ago where the market was totally different. So it's kind of nice for that reason. But the bad thing is we don't know what it sold for, but I'm going to assume it was somewhere between like 740 and 750. So let's add this one to our list of comps. We don't have any other pendings. I think I'm going to leave it that way just because we wouldn't want to find more pendings if they didn't meet this criteria. I guess if we were going to do anything to change to get more pendings, which wouldn't be horrible, admittedly, I'm going to try to do that same thing where I just marked up the whole neighborhood instead of using the half-mile radius. Let's see if this helps at all. No. So we still, out of this whole area, we don't have another pending that's got a 2-car garage and the other criteria. So kind of crazy, but true nonetheless. So, okay, I'm going to bring my radius back. And I already added that to my list. Now I'm going to look at actives. Actives are not usually the best indicator of value because we don't know whether they'll sell at all or what price they would sell at if they did. But we do want to look at the actives primarily because that's the competition. So when a buyer comes and looks at our house, they're going to be looking at these 12 other houses as well. We have to make sure we show good value. They are very up to date in the sense that they're available now and buyers are either buying them or in the case of actives, they are not buying them yet. So let's look at those and see. You can notice there's a lot more. That's because the market is a little quieter, right? It's slowed down a little bit. So as far as we have one pending that meets this criteria and 12 listings. That's crazy. That's quite a ratio. But anyways, okay, let's go to view results. I just want to see kind of what we're dealing with here. Again, I like to click the top one, go to brief report, because I can get a lot of information in a pretty quick kind of look here. I may actually, let me go to the map. I'm curious where these houses are all at, because when I see 12, I can't really do that much just with 12 active listings. I mean, it's not bad to have them to compare with, but it's just a lot. It's a lot to process. So how can I boil these down? One, I can cut out location wise. Maybe I'm going to start by just, what if I try, what if I try the basement finish? I'm just going to go out on a limb and say I only want basements that are less than 50% finished. There's 4 of them. Let's see what percentages those are at. I'm just going to see if maybe I can look at a few that have unfinished basements. Because that would be nice. Fun fact. I don't know if it's funny, but maybe it's fun for me. This is my old house. I sold this one to buy my new one. So, I mean, that was 8 years ago, but still. But anyways, it's for sale again. But, okay, these all have unfinished basements, so I like them for that reason. If you look at the map, some of them are closer, some of them are further. I'll show you kind of where those go. So like our neighborhood's kind of split in half here. These are very similar houses. These are less similar houses. So I really am going to lean on these ones a little bit more. These two are closer and they have unfinished basements, so I like those a lot. Very similar houses. I'm actually, just so that I don't lose them, I'm going to probably write them down right now. That is, so I'm trying to get this to, so I can actually read these MLS numbers. Kind of weird. They don't, for whatever reason, you can't read them. I'm just going to add those real quick so I don't forget them. The one on Coyote Gulch is right there. And then the one on Rutledge is right there as well. 209-9364. I'm going to take those two. These other two are further out. I don't like them as much. I don't think they mean as much, and I don't want to complicate it. So I'm kind of going to get rid of those. And then I'm going to let the finished basements back in just for a second so we can have something to compare to. And let's maybe look at that map too. Again, it's a little bit of a process and not everyone's going to look the same. But again, I think I'm going to, honestly, I think I'm just going to tweak this search. Instead of having my half mile, I'm just going to take this chunk of the neighborhood and just compare with that. I think that makes the most sense, honestly. So that now includes my unfinished basement ones, but also includes the finished basement ones. Let's see if there's anything else I can whittle it down based on. Some of these are on really particularly tiny lots, but I guess it's just that one. I'm not that worried about that one. And even we're still kind of in the range, so I'm not way worried about it. I do like to have this Rutledge one that's not finished. I don't think there's a lot. I mean, this one's smaller. I would probably kick this one out just because it's a different style. It's smaller and it's on a smaller acre, like on a smaller lot. At this point, I'm trying to find stuff that's just pretty dang similar. So I might kick that one out just to whittle my options down. Let's say it's got to be bigger than, it's got to be 0.08 or bigger. That should get rid of one. The rest of these I think are pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take down all of them. 4539, let's see. 2097778. For this one we already have. This one we don't have yet. I'm going to take that one down. 2093519. 2086811. 2088067. And this last one we have as well. Rutledge Road we already have. So these are, okay, so now we've come up with, these are the best solds. This is kind of a distant sold. This is the pending, and these are the actives that we're looking at. Did I lose everyone? Does this make sense? Is it followable at least? Hopefully so.
It's very
Okay.
good. Thank you.
Okay, good. Good. I'm glad you're following along. Again, the nice thing about this is it's a little, well, the not so nice thing about this probably is that it's more of an art than a science. Every house is going to be different. One thing with CMAs, make sure that as you're doing them, you do one and then ask your friend to do one, ask Coach Terry or Coach Lori to do one and compare, because you're just going to see different things. Just, you know, you might have noticed or might not have, but I have certain biases in my neighborhood. Like to me, certain, like this street is a little bit nicer than another one or whatever, but also it's my house. So I might be a little biased in the way that I'm running it, right? And so, and everyone's going to have their own biases. Like maybe they hate they hate some certain type of style, or they just dislike a certain type of house, or they love a certain type of house, and all of a sudden they put all their weight on that when maybe it objectively isn't really have that big of an impact on value. So everyone's going to see it a little different. So one person probably can't price a house very well. Bounce it off of other people and then kind of compare and learn from it and be open to other people's suggestions because they might see something you didn't. Like in this neighborhood, I'm not going to compare to something that has a different size garage, but in another neighborhood, it could be all about acreage. Or in another neighborhood, it could be all about square footage. Or like in this case, we're ranging between 3 and 6 bedrooms, and I'm using all of those pretty much interchangeably. Whereas if you're downtown, you would never use a 1 bedroom apartment or 1 bedroom condo. You would never even compare it to a 2 bedroom condo. They're just so vastly different, right? And you probably wouldn't even compare a 2 bedroom to a 3 bedroom. They're just vastly different. But when you're out here, you're in Bluffdale, Utah. The difference between a 3 and a 4 is just not that big. The difference between a 4 and a 5 is not that big. So every area is a little different. Every situation's a little different. But anyways, I'm going to take these comparables here. I'm just copying them and I'm going to put them in this. If you look at the top of the MLS, there's 3 search bars. The one on the right is the search MLS number button, search bar. I'm pasting those MLS numbers that I had put in the notepad right there. It's going to pull up 11. I kind of like to double check, make sure I didn't miss any. So I've got 6 here, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so it got all of them. I didn't miss type 1 or anything. So there's 11 here. I'm going to sort it by status. So, okay, the solds. Let's look at the solds first. I'm actually going to go brief report. So let's look at the sold ones. The sold ones are these top 4, right? Now, right here, you can see the sold price. This one is 660. That's the lowest. And then the highest was 759. So what we're going to start doing is what we call bracketing. That's where we say, okay, 660 is at the bottom. I'm going to write notes on it because helps me keep it straight. So 660 is kind of our bottom bracket. That's the least expensive one we've got. And then the most expensive was 759. So we would say most of the time I would say, hey, we're going to be somewhere between that 660 and the 759. Now in this specific case, remember, these all have finished basements. So it's actually possible that we'd be below 660. But let's keep looking at it because that doesn't give us a lot to go on. If we had to base it on, if we were just basing it on solds, I think we would look at these 4 sold properties. We would say, hey, they're all very similar, but mine doesn't have a finished basement. So mine is worth less than all of those. And maybe we find something in the middle, maybe around like 680 would be kind of a middle number. And we say, hey, that basement is going to be worth about 50 grand to finish. So maybe mine is going to be worth 630 or 640 or something like that. If we were just basing it on solds, we'd have to kind of do the math to figure that out. I usually, that's an option. But luckily we have other data, so we don't have to just do that. But if we were just basing it on solds, I would say it's probably worth around like 640, 630, something like that. Hopefully that tracks. But again, luckily that's not the only stuff that we have to work with. So then we've got our under contract. This one's similar in size, similar in lot, similar, it's got the 2-car garage. It's just got the fully finished basement. This one we think is under contract again between 745 and 750 or 740, 750, somewhere in there. But it has a finished basement. Mine does not. That supports kind of where we're at, that mine needs to be lower. But probably even lower than what we were thinking. I mean, I was thinking 730, 740, but really compared to this one that's very similar to mine, if it's under contract at 740 to 750, mine probably needs to be more like 720 or 710. Or that's not true. Sorry, backtrack that. This one's 755. Sorry, I was thinking 655. This one's 755. So that kind of does track. My house is at least $50,000 less than that. That would put us at like 690. Mine's going to be less. I think this one might be a particularly nice one. And it kind of is, honestly. This is quite a bit nicer than my house, to be honest. Like that kitchen looks pretty amazing. Sorry if I confused you on that one. Honestly, this one's probably just a nicer one. It might have been a model. I don't know, but so let's say it's under contract at 740, 750. Mine is going to be like, just based on the basement alone, probably closer to like 700. And then based on some of these other comps, we're going to be significantly lower than that. So this one didn't help too much, but where the actives come in, I think that's going to save the day with our data, because there are 6 of them. These 2 are on McKenna Road. I think there's a few on McKenna Road. Oh no, so we've got 2 on McKenna Road. Again, that's our subject property street. So that's pretty good. They do both have finished basements. We've got these 2 on Coyote Gulchway, actually 3 on Coyote Gulchway. That's the same street. It just gets called something on the other side of the road. We do have 1 that's got an unfinished basement. That's super helpful. Love to see that. And then we've got this one on Rutledge Road. That one also has an unfinished basement. 20% isn't much to talk about in a basement. So the nice thing is, as we look at these, I'm going to change. Okay, I'm going to tweak this a little bit. I'm only looking. Okay, I'm going to delete those out real quick. I'm just going to take my actives. These are my actives. I'm going to search by only these ones. That way I can go to brief report and I can search by list price. Low to high, or high to low. Which one did I? Yeah, low to high is what I wanted. So, okay, so now we're bracketing. So my original bracket was 660 to 759. My new bracket is 739 or 639.9. So we've got a new low. It used to be 660. Now we've got 639.9 is the low. And the high is 749.9. We had a high before of 759. So we're still kind of in that same bracket. So now we've opened it up. Now we're somewhere between 639.9 and 759. Now, if we look at the problem with the good thing about actives is they are competition. Like buyers that are looking at our house are going to look at these 2. This is going to help a lot, I think. The bad thing about actives is we don't know what they're going to sell for. So like I could say, hey, this one is listed at 749.9 and it doesn't have a finished basement and it's very similar in square footage. It does have slightly more acreage, but nothing crazy. So we could say, hey, that one's listed at 749. We should list about the same, but that would put us in a wildly different place. Like this one, I don't think is going to sell for 750 based on the fact it doesn't have a finished basement. All of the ones that were anywhere near 750 had finished basements. So I think this one is just over listed. It's just listed for too much, right? So when we look at these, if they're active, let's see, where's the days on market? Okay, the list date. Look at these list dates. This one was listed March 15th. And it's still for sale. What do we think? We could even look at it. This is the lowest one. Let's look at the history. Was listed originally on, that is weird. That looked, maybe I read it wrong. Yeah, I guess maybe it just took them a while to get it listed. This one was listed on July 10th, and they did a price reduction of $100 recently. This doesn't tell us a lot because it hasn't sold yet, but it's only been listed for a week. So it doesn't tell us a lot. If it was 10 weeks, it would tell us a little bit more, but so this one still could sell at that price. That's still feasible, I think, in my head. I could be wrong. But that's one that's got a finished basement. Ouch. So this one is similar to ours, but it has a finished basement. It's been listed for a week, still not sold at $639.9. That's not pretty because that's our lowest one. Let's look at this one. It has no finished basement, similar in square footage. Let's see. It says it was listed June 25th. Let's see what that looked like. Yeah, it was just listed on June 25th and then hasn't changed at all. That's pretty rough. So it's been listed. That's not too long. That's about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, something like that. And it hasn't sold at 650. That's not great news for us, but we probably could have assumed that based on some of the other numbers that 650 is a little too high for a place like ours without a finished basement. Same thing. It kind of continues on, same story, finished basement at 687. It's just not selling. This one's been listed since May 22nd. So none of these houses are selling. This one is not that crusty because it's only been listed for a little bit. Really, same with this one, right? Yeah, so these haven't been on forever, so these still could sell for that much. These ones, like this one that's been listed since May, it's not going to sell for that much, right? And again, we're on the very bottom because we have the unfinished basement. So really, we're going to want to be priced. So we have to show more value than these ones showed, because these ones showing their current value right now in today's market have not sold. They're not selling yet. And so we have to show more value. So because ours is basically the worst, basically with all of the comps that we're looking at, the house that we're trying to price is pretty much the worst out of all of them. And so based on all of that data, we need to be as aggressively priced as this one or more aggressively priced. So the most I would list this one for, I mean, really this one. So this one has a finished basement. Oh shoot, I'm a couple minutes over already. Sorry. I'll hurry. This one's decently nice. It's probably not as nice as mine, but it's not way different. It's somewhat similar. And again, has that finished basement. So you can pretty well say mine's not going to bring this much. I mean, we could pretty comfortably say mine's not going to bring as much as this one without that. So we need to be like significantly lower than that because this one hasn't even sold at that price with the finished basement. So, I mean, now that's pushing us down to like, I don't know, 610, 615, 620, I think would be like top that, I'd list my house for today. So anyways, hopefully that gives you a little bit of a rundown of kind of like how you do it. You're bracketing. So you want to find a house that's a little bit better than the house you're trying to price and something that's a little bit worse. I've kind of done poorly here because I really haven't found anything that's a little worse than my house. My house is kind of on the very bottom. That makes it a little harder to bracket. I could search around more, see if there's something that's just a little bit smaller. Some that are a little further out might be a little bit smaller, a little bit less expensive. So I could bracket it a little bit better that way. You really want to find some stuff that's a little nicer, some stuff that's a little less nice, so that you can put your price kind of right between there. But anyways, based on this, I would be listing like right around 620 in today's market. That's kind of painful because I know there were times that my house was probably worth like 650, 660, something like that. But that's just the market. It's just how it is. So anyways, any comments on that? Questions?
Nick, how do you value the basement square footage? What kind of valuation do you put on that?
Such a good question. It's about worth what it costs to do it usually. About the cheapest you could do a basement is $35 a square foot. That's like cheap. but it's doable, I think, or maybe $40 a square foot. So on one of these places that has about 1,000 square foot basement, that's going to put you around 30 to 40 grand. I would say for most like 2-story neighborhoods like this, newer 2-story neighborhoods, it's about $40,000, something like that. This is in cookie cutter, small 2-car garage sort of area. If you get out to like 1,500 square foot basement, it's going to be a little bit more, but I kind of use just like that 30 to 40 number in a neighborhood like this,
Great, thank you.
of course.
Hey, Nick, can you run us through how to put it in an actual CMA report? Like, or do you just usually show the comparables and then have them decide on the price? Because I'm wondering how to actually print it out.
Yeah. Yep. Good question. Yeah, I'm going to show you that real quick. I'm going to kind of tie a bow on this because I'm actually past my time and I want you guys to be able to go if you need to, but then I'll show you really quick just how I put it in a nice little report. But I'm just thinking, is there anything else I wanted to go over? Yeah, you just have to bracket it. And it's a process, and do it today and then do it again tomorrow. You'll come up with slightly different comps, slightly different strategies and whatnot. So just plan on that. But anyways, I think that pretty well goes over kind of how we find all those. You really do want to find a lower bracket than I did. I didn't quite get low enough, but yeah. Any other comments on that? Questions?
I'm just curious if you ever use the RPR report, or I forget what it's called. The one.
Yeah, yeah, I do just for fun, or like yeah, for like online valuations. Like I have a lead source that will just ask for a value of their home. The way you find that is you just go to I mean, it sounds like but maybe I'm sharing this with everyone else, but go to the homepage of the MLS and then click on this RPR. And then it's just so easy is kind of why I'm going in here. So I could put in the address. But this is probably similar to like going to Zillow, something like that. It's going to pull it up and it's going to say 638, which probably isn't way far off, but we know my house probably isn't going to sell for that much. So it's somewhat in the ballpark, but I wouldn't lean on it too much, but say you're doing 100 CMAs today, you're not going to be able to do it the way I just showed you, but you could probably do 100 or at least 50 of these in a day if you needed to. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of the CMA portion. I'm going to show you how to make it pretty, but if you have to run, no stress. Sorry to keep you late. I'll go really fast. And then if you need help, I'll help you. But I like to go to Cloud CMA. Just go into the MLS, go to Cloud CMA right here. You can set this up to have all of your certain preferences and whatnot. We'll just use what I've already got in here for now. Go into create new report, go to CMA, and put in the name, put in the address. Make sure that when you put in the address, you want to make sure this information matches. Like for example,
Can you show how you got to that part again?
to the CMA report. Yes.
Yeah.
Just go to home on the MLS, utahrealestate.com. Click on Cloud CMA. And then that just took you to a place that let you have options, and you click CMA, and then you're here. And then make sure that these numbers kind of match, not because it super matters for the report that we're doing, but if you take this to a seller's house and it has the wrong data, like this didn't account for the basement square footage, which is because it pulled from the tax data, which doesn't usually count below grade square footage. But if I show up with a CMA and it shows their square footage at 2,400 and they know that it's like 3,400, that's instantly they're going to be like, what the heck? Why does it say it's 2,400 square feet? And you can be like, hey, oh, it's just because it pulls it from the tax records or whatever. But it starts it in like they're on the defense and they're like, wait, this person doesn't know my house that well. So just try to make it match with what reality is. The tax records are not a very accurate place to pull it from. So make sure that looks good. And then I just take all these MLS numbers that I pulled. I'm just going to paste those in here. So these are like your hand-picked MLS numbers. I like to do it like that every time. You can have it automatically pull listings for you, but they're not going to be good. They're not going to be accurate. You know, they're not going to be good. So I like to hand pick them, then just hit fetch listings. It's going to pull all of them up real quick. You can customize the report. So I pulled it up. It does ask you to set a price, and I could put here like 620 or 610 or something. I try not to put a price just because if I put 620 and I'm going to a listing appointment, what does the next agent have to put to be able to steal that listing from me? Any number higher than 620, right? 625, all of a sudden the listing is theirs, not mine, because they gave them a higher number. And they're still going to be in the same market that I'm going to put them in, but if I put them in that box of you have to list at this price, they tend to confuse that with my value proposition, which is how much they're going to get for it. So I don't like to put an actual price on it. Anyways, you can see all the listings here. I go to customize report. You can customize this however you want. There's a lot of different pages. You kind of have to read through them and just figure out which ones you like the best. Then go to publish report. And at the end of the day, it's going to be a pretty good looking report here. That's all set up for you. It's just publishing right now. And now it's ready. Go to view PDF. And this is what we actually will go through with the seller. So, yeah, this is a little different layout. We have actually a nicer version, but for whatever reason, sometimes when I sign into Cloud CMA, it doesn't have my settings on here. But anyways, it's pretty good looking report. This again is very vanilla at the moment because it's just weird. But at any rate, this goes through, it shows a map of all the listings. It shows their beds, baths, square footage, price. This breaks it down by solds, pendings, actives. One thing to know is in Cloud CMA, sometimes it'll mix these up. It'll put, there'll be a sold, but it'll say it's pending, or there'll be a pending that says it's active or whatever. So that is one of the costs of doing business with Cloud CMAs. It's not 100% accurate. Sometimes they'll cross a little bit. But the nice thing is I like the way that it shows the pictures because it'll give you a couple pictures of the front so you can identify the house. And then it'll give you 12 pictures after that. But
So how did you pull the properties that you had already found into the CMA?
Yep. So that's when you're creating this, go to criteria. And then I just pasted those MLS numbers here. So that's why I had that notepad right here, because I just copied these and pasted them in here. Does that make sense?
Nick, I have to tell you, I have never used Cloud CMA. I do all of mine from the drop-down CMA report.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and there's if you ever get a chance to learn from Kenya and why
And her husband. Yeah.
why is that escaping me right now? That is so random. Landon, Kenya and Landon, if you ever get the chance to learn from them, they will show you in that format. It's very math-based, science-based. He's an appraiser, so he looks at it differently than we do. Kenya is a real estate agent that's awesome and amazing at it. So, but they'll give you a totally different perspective of it. That's for sure.
That's
So,
who I learned from, and I copied what they did. And I thought you were going to show me all that math because I don't remember every single math line that their adjustments had, and I really wanted to do that.
yeah,
But this is
totally.
awesome. I'm so glad that there's a different way.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like a few different ways to do it. And probably the best way, if you can do all three, I would do all three and then kind of use them in conjunction with each other. Yeah, totally. If you ever learn from Lori, she has a huge process. Like Lori's been teaching me pricing lately, And her process is just amazing. It's very mathematical, like that kind of. It's kind of maybe an in between of mine and Kenya's, but yeah. So learn from a lot of people. You never really have. Pricing is not something you can be perfect at. It's really an art. But anyways, when you go through this with people, this is what it sounds like with your seller, and then I'm gonna let you guys go because sorry I've taken too much time, but just go through here, say, hey, this house is a little bit bigger. I'm not even sure that's the format I would go to. Let's see what else we got here. Sorry, this report ended up being, this is a weird kind of version of it. You have to tweak it to make it work best for you. But basically, I'll say, if I'm going to talk to the seller, I'm like, hey, here's kind of your bracket. I'm basically doing the same thing I just explained to you guys. Here's a bracket. Here's some that are a little better than yours. Here's some that are a little worse than yours. Or in this case, hey, ours is pretty much the worst out of all of these. It's going to be the least expensive. And so you just kind of go through, you say, hey, this one had 4 beds, 4 baths, 3,000 square feet, and is listed at 679. This one has a finished basement, 5 beds, 4 baths, 3,400 square feet, listed at 639 and still hasn't sold. We need to show more value than that. But when they look at the pricing on here, none of these are lower than 639. So they may, if they're just looking at these prices, they'll be like, oh, 639, I wouldn't want to go any lower than that. Whereas we know that one has a finished basement, ours doesn't. So you've got to kind of be like, hey, ours is going to be a basement less than that. And whether that basement is 30 grand or 40 grand or whatever, but ours is going to be lower than that. So, and if you had questions, you might even say, hey, we should go look at this house to see how it compares to yours. Because you might go in and it smells like dogs or it's got some other major issues. Then you're like, oh, thank goodness. Ours is actually just as good as that or better. But anyways, you kind of go through this, and then I always ask them a question. Hey, based on all this data, based on all the houses that are and are not selling in today's market, where do you think your house fits price-wise within them? And they'll say, at that point, they're going to be like, yeah, we don't have that finished basement. So maybe we're a 630 or 620. And then you kind of coach them from there. Oh, you think 620? Totally agree. I think you're right in that ballpark. There's a chance we may even end up a little bit below that, but I think you're in the ballpark. Or they might look at this and they say, hey, we think ours is a lot better. Ours is probably worth like 670. And then you ask them a question like, hey, where are you getting that from? Totally understand. And you do have a beautiful home. What data are you basing that on? And kind of let them talk through it. And then you can say, hey, I get it. And they might say, oh, well, we have this beautiful kitchen that is, got the white cabinets and the quartz countertops. And so we think ours is worth a little bit more. And you can scroll over to the pictures or pull out the pictures and be like, oh, yeah, your kitchen kind of looks like all the other ones, kind of looks like all the comparable ones. These are really your comparable properties. Like they really are similar to yours. So yeah, we do want to price in line with these because a lot of times they'll think that theirs is way better. And then when you show them a few pictures, you're like, honestly, they look the same. They look very similar. So that's why I like having these this one page of just 12 photos. You can get a lot out of those to be able to compare and contrast with them and figure out if their house really is just way better in the pictures than it is on paper, or if, hopefully you really are comparing apples to apples and you can just base it on those numbers. So, okay, any questions you have on that? Sorry, I know it was a lot that we went through. Questions, comments? Okay.
I'm gonna
Awesome.
try
Well,
this method tomorrow. I'm excited.
awesome. Love it. Yeah, yep, practice it. Ask a friend, compare. You'll learn a lot. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Yeah, if I can ever do anything for you, let me know. Be happy to do it. And I will see you out there in the market.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you guys.
Thank you.